The Türkiye-Syria earthquake death toll continues to climb and has risen past the 24,000 mark. South African volunteers on the ground as rescuers search for survivors buried in the rubble. The 7.8 magnitude earthquake that struck the two countries Monday morning has caused untold misery and destruction. eNCA senior reporter Desin Tatia is in the city of Antakya in Turkey with Gift of the Givers, and he joins us from there live. The magnitude of this earthquake is something that's being spoken about, Desin, in historic proportions, and that death toll is reaching those historic proportions now as well. Give us a sense of the latest from your side.
No, Marcel, just as I was listening to you introduce me, I could hear sirens just off to my left, and that's been the kind of soundtrack that you get around this area. There are always sirens, there's always some sort of noise of heavy machinery, sometimes crying, and that's what's really what we've been hearing. And if you look just here to my left, you'll see exactly why that is, because most of the city looks like this. It's been practically reduced to rubble and bits and pieces of a life that these families once had. Their belongings are strewn all over on this road that we are on now. This is one of the areas that's about 20 kilometers outside of Antakya, or rather away from the central point of Antakya. And this is one of the areas that hasn't been reached by search and rescue teams. In fact, the Gift of the Givers team, along with the SAPS canines, have joined the Oman team to come out here. So this would be the first sign of search and rescue teams that this community has seen. In fact, one of the things that they were saying to me, I was trying to have a conversation with one of the younger residents earlier, and the last sentence that he had typed into the Google Translate app said to me that they left us to die. And it was such a jarring statement. And when I asked him why, he said it was because it took several days before help reached them. So in the time after the earthquake, they ended up sleeping here on the street or in cars if they were available. So you'll see, for example, here on my left, there are some vehicles that are parked here. The houses are on the other side. So those that could and had a vehicle that was available had to then put their families into those cars and try to sleep. And I can tell you, because 2 days ago we slept in a vehicle ourselves, and it is freezing cold. The temperatures are 0 and -1. And that was with blankets that we had available. So I can only imagine, with the few belongings that these people had, it would have been much worse. And I think it's exacerbated by the fact that they were then just across the road from their homes, which looked like the one that you're seeing. There's a gentleman here now just trying to show me. 3 people? 3 children? 3 stories. Oh, this gentleman is trying to tell me that this house was 3 stories high, and it's been, yeah, and it's been reduced to this. Look at it now; it's completely collapsed. Is everyone okay here?
3 floor.
Is everyone okay?
Okay.
Okay, so he says to me that everyone here fortunately managed to survive, but unfortunately there's nothing left of their house. And on the right, there's a small space here that's been set up where there are some tents that have been put up by AFAD. Sorry, this gentleman is also pointing out another house to me. Marcel, you just have to bear with me. These residents here are, they are so desperate. They want as much help as they can possibly get, because they feel that help in the form of aid had reached them quite late. He's just showing me what this other side of the house looks like. And as I said before, they have to go to bed now in those tents or those vehicles across the road and look at these houses and look at most of their belongings that are trapped here. Some of the other residents were saying to me that there are a number of people that have passed away here. Others are missing. Among the dead are children. One resident told me that he believes at least 15 children may have passed away just in this immediate vicinity that I'm showing you right now. These are the tents that I was telling you about earlier, Marcel, but it really doesn't offer much shelter from the cold. I'll just show you what we were looking at earlier and the means that residents are making. You'll see here they've installed a chimney system so that they could light a fire inside, and all of their belongings, or rather the aid that was given to them, is now scattered on the side. There's some water there, a few fruit, some vegetables. Others have a generator running here so that they can charge their devices. It is still cold. Don't be fooled by the sun, Marcel. It is extremely cold here even now, and you can tell that people are trying to huddle up in corners like that, trying to prepare food, and all of this while they then think about what it is they're going to do next. I hope that I can get an opportunity just to show you what's happening, Kandra.
The pictures that you brought to us just a couple of minutes ago, the destruction caused to people's lives, both emotionally but also physically. You just see the remnants of people's day-to-day lives. Lounge suites, just where probably a couple of hours before that earthquake hit, a family would have been sitting down, either having a meal together or watching television. A bedroom where a child's play toy or a shoe is just lying there. The devastation that came so unexpectedly just ripped through these people's lives in so many different ways. And it's actually quite telling with the pictures that you're sending us. That's the one thing that always hits me. But the other thing is this: as you walk around there and you just see people trying to get some semblance of normalcy, feeding their children because their children need to have their breakfast, and then lunch comes and that kind of thing, and they're doing it in whatever way, shape or form they can do it. You're walking amongst rubble, you're walking around buildings that could still fall at every moment. How do they know how safe or unsafe those areas are? Because that's another issue as well.
Yeah. Yes, definitely, and that's been another concern that the authorities here have had to deal with, because they are faced with a situation where people can't exactly let go because they don't have anywhere to go. So even when we were in the city center yesterday, where other houses had collapsed, there were many people milling around in between these buildings that were hanging precariously, many of them slanted, pieces of them having fallen out. And when you try to have a conversation with some of them, it's mainly because they are waiting for loved ones, and B, it's because they still need things. They need items to live. They need whatever was left in their houses, and they don't really have anywhere to go. The tent is not an ideal option, ultimately. So that's why they choose to remain. And you touched on such an important point, that when you look at this house, and it's so jarring what you said, that just a short while, an hour or maybe 30 minutes before that, people would have been sleeping, or they would have been having a meal, or they would have been doing whatever they would have been doing here normally. This looks like a very close-knit community. That's the sense that we got during the time that we were here. And now it's literally been reduced to this. When we say people are picking up the pieces, they are literally doing just that here.
What sense are you getting from local authorities? I mean, the scale of the destruction is so wide. I mean, normally, if a building collapses, you would have local city safety officers on the scene to cordon off the area, to say, don't move within 10 meters of this building. It's still quite precarious. Yes. It could fall down at any moment. But you can't do that with destruction at this scale, can you?
No, and if I had to be frank, in the time that we've spent here, I feel like the local authorities are overwhelmed by everything that's going on. I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional. I can tell you that they seem to be stretched very thin in dealing with this crisis that they are facing now. I don't know what resources are available to them, but the general we are getting from people now is that they feel that their own government had moved too slowly, and that was for the immediate assistance that they needed on the day. This happened on a Monday. They wanted help. You'll see there's some heavy machinery here that's moving some of this rubble out. that's also something that we're seeing around the city, because this is the first part, to move the bigger pieces out where possible and then look underneath. That's where the search and rescue personnel come in. That's where the manpower comes in. But just to come back to my point, Marcel, that is the general sense that more could have been done from authorities and that more help could have been offered. In fact, AFAD, which is their disaster management agency, is coordinating the response. And what they're also doing, I mean, at the last count, they said that they had over 1,000 persons working on the field, trying to do this kind of work. But fortunately, there's also been a lot of solidarity. Many countries coming through and assisting. Obviously, South Africa, through the Gift of the Givers, is one of them as well. And they all are lending a hand. And even within these countries, there is a sense of unity. I said to you that our team has come out with the Oman team yesterday. The other day, they were with the Serbian team. So everyone is trying to do their bit. But when you look at the scale of the damage, and this is no exaggeration, it literally looks like 80% or 90% of the city is completely destroyed.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for that update. That eNCA senior reporter Desen Tatia on the ground for us with Gift of the Givers in the city of Antakya in Turkey, bringing us the very latest with regards to the destruction to both buildings and human life there.